All right, so what we're going to do is we are going to download this Visual Studio database project. And I think I'm going to throw this in a different folder. And we're going to extract it. And then just like any Visual Studio project, there is a solution file and you double click on that to open it. But because this is a database project, it is going to look a little different than our coding projects. So what you're going to have are the basically the SQL code for the tables. And if you double click on them, you can see the tables and you can see the code. And you can actually make changes up here and it will change the code, or you can change the code and it will change what you see up in this design grid. If you were interested in doing something like this yourself, you just basically select the database project type. And then when you're in here, what you want to do is right click, go to add new item. And the new item that you want to add is a table. Okay, you'll give the table a name, and then you'll kind of see an empty grid with ID in it. And then you can simply add up here or down here, and it will create it for you. Okay, so here is our project. Now, to generate the database, you are going to have to run start. Okay, and so I have the database. I'm going to delete it. Okay, so now it is gone. And now I'm going to run start. So hopefully it'll work. Sometimes it doesn't like it if I do this. Okay, it does look like it worked, or it's working. And it did work. Deploy succeeded. So if I come over here and I refresh this, here is my database, and there are my tables. Okay, so if you're curious, you can kind of look at what's in here. So we've got basically the department and the zip code related to employee. Okay, so this is our database project. Our next step is to create an MVC project. And let me get my directions back up, pull these over here. And we're going to go into File and New Project. And this is going to be MVC. And we're going to call it Sugar Bakers. And don't really want it in that folder because I think I have one in there already. So we will put it in a little different location. Actually, I'm going to put it in the same location as my database. All right, so I'm going to click on next. I'm just going to keep this version. Take note of what version you're using because that's important for adding entity framework. Okay, and now that I have my new project, I am going to add entity framework real quick. And I want the core SQL Server version 7 does match my project. So I'm going to do that one. And then I'm going to add in the tools. Okay, and so at this point, I've got entity framework added. And now what I need to do is add the scaffold DB context command to the PM console. And I happen to have the command entered for you guys. We broke it down in a previous video, but it's scaffold DB context. You have to tell it the server. And so we said that the server for database first is project models. And you'll notice that it's local DB/project models, semicolon. The database name, database equals Sugar Bakers chapter 12. And then the rest of this is pretty typical. Trusted connection is true. Microsoft Entity Framework core.sql server. And we're going to output the models. Okay. So that's what we want it to do. We're going to go ahead and press enter. And it is done. So if we go back over to the Solution Explorer, we have models. It automatically opened up the context for us. And you can see here, it kind of reverse engineered the database, right? Normally we have to do these and then do the migration. So this is kind of the reverse process. But you can see here, we've got Fluent API for creating the tables that it added right to our context file. Okay. And then if we look in our classes, you will notice that it's a little different. These are partial classes. Okay. And that is not unusual. And I will show you a technique to add data annotations. However, it doesn't always work, but hopefully that is something that will be addressed in the future, because some of these names are not really ideal. Okay, so we do have our models. And so our next little step is going to be to add the connection string to app settings. So let's take a look at app settings. And I'm just going to copy and paste. Okay. And so here we've got local DB, project models, a database, Sugar Bakers, chapter 12. Okay, that should look fairly familiar. And we have that as our default connection. Next thing we have to do is go into Program CS and add the dependency injection. You guys should be fairly familiar with this. So we need to put it below the builder object, and we'll put it above the add controller with views. And let's tab that over. And you can see we're connecting to default connection. That is how it connects over to our database. So at this point, I'm going to save everything and I'm going to run a build. Okay, and our next step is to scaffold. So we need a class for each of our tables, or we need a controller for each of our tables: department, employee, and zip code. So we're going to do add new scaffolded item. We want MVC controller with views using entity framework. And we'll have to do this 3 times. We'll do it for department. We will do it for employee. And we will also do it for zip code. Okay, so at this point, we have our controllers, we have our views. I'm going to go ahead and modify layout. And adding to the menu. And I'm going to go ahead, save everything, run a build, and then I can test this out. Now, when you test this, you're going to have to add to zip codes and departments first, because those were the primary tables, and the related one is the dependent one is employees. So again, we would probably want some kind of data annotation, just because these names are not ideal. But you saw how quickly I could create a database or a MVC project from an existing database, which is kind of nice. Oops. Let's see, departments. Got to think about what I'm doing. IT. All right, employees. And zip code is, this is the ID. Again, this is something we'd probably change. We'll make him a developer. And there we go. So this is working. And at this point, you guys would be done and you'd be able to upload to GitHub.